Hey Haunters, it's Steve, and today I'm back with a big brand new project. So I decided to make a haunt panel this year, just to separate some of the scenes in my haunted walkthrough. And I'm having a nuclear meltdown, apocalypse kind of theme. So I wanted something with green slime and liquid, and I wanted something with water in it. So right behind me we have the wall of like inside of a sewer with some broken pipes, and as you can see, there's some water leaking out. It's not so good. There's some slime everywhere. So I'm going to show you how I made this, and let's get started. Alright everyone, let's get started. So this project's really big, but it's actually not that complicated. So for starters, I bought one sheet of plywood at Home Depot. I made the nice guy cut it in half for me, and then I decided I wanted it to be 6.5 feet tall, so the other half I just cut a section of it off, so the whole thing will be 6.5 feet tall when they're stacked on top of each other. And then I took two 2x4s and I cut them so they were 6.5 feet long. And there was probably a better way to do this, but this was the Steve method. So I took the 2x4s and I laid them down, and then I placed the plywood on top, and I drilled pilot holes, and then used drywall screws to screw them in. And then I laid down the other piece, more pilot holes, more screws, and then I kind of wiggled the other 2x4 that's trapped in the middle right now out, so it's flush with the other edge. And then it ended up being pretty square. And I spent the afternoon at Home Depot gathering goodies, so I'm just going to lay them out now to see how I like them. So I got some 2-inch PVC pipe, some 1.5-inch PVC pipe, half of a old toolbox. I got a toy steering wheel. I got 2 steering wheels for like a playground on eBay. I got some vents that I think are for like dryer exhaust or something like that. Not really sure. And then I got some tubing that I believe is for a toilet. And another vent that I found in the like air duct department. I had a lot of fun seeing what the cheapest item was and grabbing it and buying it. So then I'm going to drill 2 pilot holes, and then I'm going to cut out 2 channels with a jigsaw for the top of the toolbox to fit through, because there was like hinges on the back from the lid. And that way it'll sit flush against the wall, and this is actually going to be where the water is going to drain into. And I'm going to mark a hole for an exit pipe and just drill it out. And I had a giant drill bit. I think it's a 1/2-inch drill bit, and it perfectly fits a piece of PVC pipe, and the channels aren't big enough, so I just made them a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach the toolbox. But first I'm going to use our mega drill bit to drill a hole in the bottom of the toolbox, being careful not to crack it because I had one before and I cracked that one. And then I'm attaching the pipe, and then I had already drilled some pilot holes in the toolbox. And then I'm going to use some washers with some drywall screws to attach it, just because I don't want the pressure from the screw to crack the toolbox because it is just plastic. And yeah, we need it to be watertight, so crack is whack. I drilled another large hole for the water to come out through the pipe, but I didn't record it, so here's a picture. And then I'm going to trace around this vent, and then I'm going to use the jigsaw to cut it out, so I need some pilot holes for the corners. And there we go, we're just going to have a big ol' rectangle. And I made some perfect circles by tracing around the vents. And I made some pilot holes on the top and the bottom, and then more jigsaw action to cut them out. And then I used some bathtub silicone to attach them because, believe it or not, I was out of hot glue and didn't feel like buying more, and this works just fine. use some silicone for the rectangle vent, but it probably would have just chilled in there on its own, but better safe than sorry. And then I'm also going to seal the exit pipe under the bottom of our toolbox, and I'm going to do it from the inside as well and around the edges just to keep it attached to the wall, because if that fell when it was filled with water, it would just be a tragedy. And then I use some As Seen on TV Flex Seal to seal everything up. If you order now, you can get 2 cans of Flex Seal for just $10.99. Just $10.99. And of course, it would not be Halloween without emptying an entire can of black spray paint. So I'm just going to give the whole thing a big old base coat. And then I ran out of black, which sucks. So then I had some brown, and I used brown too. So it's like half black, half brown. And it does not matter at all because we are going to be covering the entire thing in a fun silver metallic paint at the end. And then we're going to pretend we're SpongeBob in that episode where he uses the time machine to go to the future and they make everything chrome with spray paint. So we're going to do that. And we're just going to cover the entire thing in silver metallic spray paint. And that's going to be a base to make it look like metal. And I know you can see the chunks of wood through the spray paint, but it doesn't matter because it adds to the charm. And then we're going to use our handy dandy angle brackets to attach the pieces of pipe to the board. And I'm just using the screws that came with the angle brackets. It was in one of those little pre-packaged things that you get at Home Depot. And after we're done with our pipes, I'm just going to screw in our steering wheels, including the one that was a child's toy that I destroyed from the thrift store. And then I'm just going to chromify it because we have to get rid of that hideous, colorful stuff. And last but not least, we have to install our toilet tubies. So I just drilled 4 holes. That turned out to not be big enough, so I had to make them wider later. And I just threaded the pipe through the bottom because one end had a little plug on it and that kept it from going all the way through. And I just stuck the other end into the bottom hole and they just kind of hung out in place by themselves and I didn't have to glue them or anything. And I flex sealed the back too just because I don't want leaks. And then we're going to go ahead and start our aging process. So the aging process is basically me just doing several coats of washes. So I take a water bottle and I squeeze some paint into it and then I shake it all up. And then I'm just kind of dumping it in strategic areas all over the panel. And it might seem like really bright colors at first, but it fades a lot, especially if you do it in the sun and it dries really quickly. So there's just gonna be like a faint tint left over, kind of look like some stuff dripped down, and it's not going to be neon blue or green or orange or anything like that. It'll actually dry like a little gray, but if you do several layers over and over and over again, it'll actually start to look very old and very aged and very creepy. And then for my favorite part, I'm just going to take all the pipes and the steering wheels and all that stuff, and I'm going to paint it with this awesome copper metallic paint, and that straight up gives it the illusion that it looks like metal. It's uncanny. It looks really awesome. So we're going to do that on all of our things. And then I took that same copper paint and mixed it with some gray metallic paint just to give it some variation. So not everything was bright copper, but it's like a muted copper. right before our final step, I just went ahead and tested it with some water. So I used a water fountain pump that I got at Lowe's. I think it was like 30 bucks that I used to fill my fish tank, and I just filled a bucket with water and shoved a tube through that hole in the back down the pipe, and then I connected a piece of PVC to our exit tube that we made under the toolbox, and that just recycles the water back into the bucket that's behind the panel. And then I went in and I just put in a few drops of green food coloring, and I think it adds to the effect and ties the whole look together. I also used a hydroponic gardening watering timer that I got on eBay for 20 bucks, and basically you can set it to go on and off in intervals just like a fog machine timer. And for our last and my personally favorite step, we are going to take some neon green paint straight out of the bottle, and I'm just going to squeeze it everywhere. I'm just going to let it drip out of everything, and I'm going to let it dry. And I laid down a tablecloth on the ground so it would catch all the drips, because it did get everywhere, but it looks freaking awesome, especially in high speed where you can just watch all the drips start to drip down and dry, and it looks really cool. And I think it makes it look finished, and it's going to go with the theme really well, and it looks perfect and awesome and cool. Welcome back. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you leave a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, don't tell me because it'll hurt my feelings, but you could always subscribe or even hit the notification bell if you're into that kind of thing. Alright, thanks and happy hunting.